We'd like to call the meeting to order. If we can all please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I gotta move it. I keep forgetting to move it. Okay. If we can have a call to order, please. Oh, I just did that. Roll call, I meant.
Councilwoman Albrecht. Here. Councilman Mazzella. Here. Councilman O'Hanlon.
Present.
Councilman Reifenberg.
Here.
Supervisor Delvecchio.
Here.
Town Attorney Emily Svensson.
Here.
All present.
Okay. We're going to adopt the agenda as is. Do we have any special things?
Did we, so we, yeah, if we can, I'll make a motion to add number 3 under items of special consideration to discuss the resignation of the rec leader. The rec leader.
Okay.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay.
So that being said, I'll move that we approve the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Receipt and acceptance of the minutes for the regular town board meeting, public hearing of 10/24/22. Do I hear a motion?
I make a motion to accept them.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
All official correspondence are on file at the clerk's office. And tonight we have with us for an oral comment reports and presentation, Dutchess County Planning and Development and the Development of Public Works Q&A regarding traffic and our situation here in Pleasant Valley. So before I bring up the gentlemen, just want to let you know, back in March, Keith and myself attended a meeting based basically on some of the questions we're going to have here tonight, and then we wrote a letter as the complaints continued to come in. I kind of was charged by the board to write a letter to ask help anywhere we can get it, and everyone here today has been gracious enough to come out and explain what the plans are and what's going on. One of the parts of the letter was we put out a question or a request by the Sheriff's Department and the state troopers. The sheriffs have yet to do their part yet on it. They haven't scheduled it yet. But the state troopers came back with a 2-week study of our troopers performed more than 27 hours of dedicated patrol in the locations listed below over a 2-week period. This enforcement yielded 8 speeding tickets and 3 non-speeding ticket violations during that time. They were on Van Wagner Road, they were on Traver Road, Freedom Road, North Ave, Martin Road, and Main Street 44. So out of 2 weeks, they basically ticketed 11 people, and all tickets that were issued were to passenger cars. No trucks were issued any kind of violations. So next week will be the Sheriff's Department, and we'll see what they yield. Without any further ado, I'd like to bring up Mr. Bob Balkind.
Thank you, Supervisor. Thank you, Board, for the opportunity to chat with you tonight. In response, Supervisor, to the letter we received from the town asking for some help with traffic, we spoke on the phone a little bit about that. We're here tonight, and I say we. I'd like to, if I may, introduce the folks from the county that are here. Myself, Bob Balkind, DPW Commissioner. Owen Rafter, Commissioner of our Planning and Development Department. Matt Dukavich is within our Department of Public Works, our Engineering Director. And we have Nickel from New York State DOT, Assistant to the Regional Director? Deputy Regional Director, I'm sorry. So we're here, and What we'd like to do tonight is to understand a little bit better. The letter alluded to traffic problems, very sort of generalized in the letter you wrote. What we'd like to do tonight is to understand with a little bit more clarity some of the key areas that you really want us as a team to focus on. Some of these areas that we think are issues, they're state roads intersecting county roads, town roads, state roads, sort of all over the map. So what we'd like to do is understand some specific locations and specific issues at those locations, or if it's a corridor-wide situation, we'd like to understand what road from where to where. I don't know that we're really going to be in a position tonight to sort of spell out answers or solutions. Some of these things have taken years and years to develop. The solutions won't be off-the-cuff solutions that we just throw out here tonight. They'll be taken back to our office, researched. We may have to do data collection, speed studies, intersection turning movements, things like that. We want to understand your concerns with specificity, go back to our office and kind of really dive into them and get you real answers, not just off-the-cuff generic solutions. Speed enforcement is a very generic solution that can be applied broadly, but some of the other issues beyond the speeding, delays at intersections and traffic signals that don't seem to be programmed correctly, those are things that we do need to go back and really look at the data and understand and come up with real solutions. So our goal is really not so much to tell you what the solutions are tonight, but to hear from you and others who you may wish to speak, really understand what the problems are, specific locations and issues, and then we want to take that back and report back to you in a meaningful way with real answers.
So I think, based on that, what we should do is allow the people speak first. Let's hear some of the complaints from the audience that have been going on, and maybe we can address them. We've set up a second microphone over here. You don't have to touch it. You just got to stand close to it. It will pick up your voice. And if you have a question for any of these gentlemen that came here tonight, and then I guess we open it up to the board if you have any questions at that point too. So.
Thank you.
When you come on up, please state your name, where you live, and your question.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you, Board, for serving. My name's Russ Bach. I live 2 English Way in Pleasant Valley, just off Salt Point Turnpike, and that's why I'm here. I've been driving on that road for 34 years, and I don't know if any of you gentlemen have been driving on it at all, but it's a horror show. About 6 years ago, shoulder shims were placed on Salt Point Turnpike from about Gretna Road all the way to the hamlet, can you hear me? All the way to the hamlet of Salt Point. Whoever did the job or whomever did the job didn't really know what they were doing. Since then, after the shoulder shims were put on, a center shim was put in, effectively trapping water between both sides or both lanes on the road. Since then, every year, patches have been put on that road, on top of the shims, on top of the patches, on top of the shims. In other words, layers. Just this past week or two, more patches were put on. And every year, the snow plows, when they come through on Salt Point, scrape them right off. So my question is, how much does it cost to put these patches down? And I realize that question, it might be unanswerable because the patches can be of different sizes, different amounts, and different places. But how much would it cost to, instead of putting patches down every year, to repave or resurface the road so there are no shims, no patches, or anything like that? Trucks now are coming south from the quarry on Salt Point. And when they get to Chereau Road, they turn onto Chereau and go on Wigston so they can bypass the stretch of Salt Point near where I live. My understanding that Salt Point Turnpike was supposed to have been resurfaced, or whatever term you call it, a couple of years ago. I spoke with Glenn Boucher a few weeks ago, and he said, well, it's probably going to be redone either next year or the year after. I would say that that's unacceptable since we've been driving on that road for years, and it's getting worse and worse and worse. So that's what I'd like to find out, or like to complain about. Salt Point Turnpike from Gretna all the way to the hamlet of Salt Point and beyond is very poorly maintained. I don't know who does it, and no one's taking credit or blame for it, but I would like to see it get done, completed as soon as possible. Thank you.
Do you guys want to address these one by one, or do you want to wait till everyone gets up and?
Supervisor, I don't, like I mentioned, I don't know that we're going to have answers for everybody's situation. Like, what we're trying to do is understand the specific issues, and we're going to have to get back to the
Okay,
board.
that's fine.
We're just not going to be in a position tonight to offer those solutions.
Ms. Roberts?
Carol Roberts, North Avenue. I have a number of issues. The first one is speeding and traffic on North Avenue. No matter what happens, the Sheriff's Department and the state troopers cannot ever issue enough tickets to actually reduce the speeders. They're out there maybe a day, they're out for maybe 3 hours, issue a couple tickets. It's unbelievable. We have all the trucks from the quarry that are going literally 50 and 55 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour speed zone. Now, I don't think that putting up a traffic light at like Martin would help, because then you have them taking off fast from a stop. You have the extra noise when they're reducing their speed if they got a Jake brake. I just don't think that's it. What I would inquire about is there is at least one town upstate New York near the Albany area that is putting in speed bumps. Now, plows plow parking lots and mall parking lots, and they have speed bumps in them, so that's not really an issue. We don't need that many. It's from Quaker Hill to the apartments, and that would seriously, effectively reduce the speed. It is an accident waiting to happen. When I am out there trying to work in my front yard to do weeding or yard work, I get gravel that's hitting me in the face because they are driving so fast. It takes me an inordinate amount of time to pull out of my driveway now because they're speeding. If they were going the speed limit, there would be enough time for me to actually pull out. But you have to wait for no cars completely. And with the traffic we now have on North Avenue, it's just ridiculous. But the speeding is my major concern on North Avenue, and I would love to find out what we can do about that. I really think speed bumps is the thing to do. Now, this North Avenue is a county road. My next issue isn't about traffic, but it is getting up to be snow season. And if you live on North Avenue where there's a sidewalk, you have to shovel your sidewalk. Not an issue except for the fact that we do not have a buffer. The line on the side where the white line is literally 3.5 inches from the sidewalk. So when the plows come and plow North Avenue, they are literally placing half of the road on my sidewalk. I have to shovel half of the road on top of trying to keep my sidewalk clear. It's insane. It's not logical. It's not fair. Why pay anybody to plow it? Just have us go out and shovel it. I mean, it's ludicrous, and it doesn't matter how old you are, how much money you have, if you have kids at home to help. It's wrong. We should not be responsible for plowing half of the road. Now, years ago, the town for a while would come by and drop their side plow and clear it off. I would love to see that done again. I would love the county, when they come plow the roads, drop their side plow if they can do it. It's ludicrous, and it's not fair, and something has to be done about it. Traffic on 44, it's a nightmare. I don't even most of the time take 44 anymore. I take Salt Point because it takes me 15, 20 minutes longer to get to work than it used to. I mean, it is absolutely insane. The backups, whether you're going east or west, if you're coming from Millbrook at a traffic time, you hit backups. Coming from Poughkeepsie, coming out, you hit backups. You'll have to sit through a light like 3 times because there's just so much traffic. That's my complaint. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Sure. And don't be afraid of that microphone. You can get right up close to it. It's not gonna bite you.
Hi, my name is Jim Teed. I live on Drake Road. I was just wondering, is there anything in the works on resurfacing and repaving Route 44 from the bridge through the valley? I mean, it's terrible. I just had a hip replacement 6 weeks ago, and I'm afraid I'm going to get dislocated again. So is there anything in the works? I mean, you're from New York State in the back, right? You know, is anything going on?
I honestly, I have to go back and take a look at our multi-year plan. So we've got a multi-year plan for paving, as far as what goes out, what's coming up due, what's next. So I'd have to see where it is on the scale. From a state DOT perspective, we have a grading system we use for all of our state roads. We look at the money that's allocated to us in our budget. We look at every road in the region that's going from Columbia County down to Westchester, to Rockland, Orange, Ulster. And based on the grades, we set up a multi-year plan to tackle, you know, the worst roads in the system, with the understanding that we're trying to give everybody a little bit, you know, and that we don't have enough to give everybody everything at one shot. So what we try and do is keep everybody, you know, as equal as possible across those counties.
I mean, we're talking about probably a half a mile of road from the bridge to the CVS light. That is terrible. It's got to be one of the worst roads in the county, you know?
Believe it or not, it's not.
I mean, for the amount of traffic that's traveled on that road, I would imagine there's quite a
A
correspondence.
lot of the road work, and the county folks can back me up on this, a lot of it's more than just a mill and fill paving, depending on what's underneath, depending on what the other issues are, if we're doing culverts, if there's other work that has to be done.
I understand.
A lot of times it can't just be a straight mill and fill, depending on what. The other piece we gotta look at, obviously, you know, can't just be a mill and fill, it's have to be more. What we don't wanna do is go in and mill and fill something, just have to come back and refix something and dig it back up a year later. So
Yeah.
where are we on other projects? There's a wide variety of things that go into that multi-year.
Well, you know what, they paved on both sides prior because they were planning on putting water through the valley. Never happened, but still, it never got paved either, you know, so, I mean, something needs to be done, really.
I got that down the list, so.
Thank you.
Anyone else? So, I think I'm just going to go back to some of our notes from back in March, which when we sat with the whole gamut of folks again. Some of these have already been brought up, paving 44, and I understand that it would have been nice if somebody had let the state know that we were not going to be bringing water into that corridor at that time, and apparently that did not happen for the last couple of years, so they had no idea as to whether or not that was still happening. So that's why we started immediately and let you guys know, so we understand that one. But some of the other complaints, just to reiterate from March, the Salt Point and West Road intersection happens to be a very dangerous intersection. Apparently, there was a thought at one point of making one of those turnabouts there, but that couldn't happen because of the grade where Rettle Park is, and I believe the other alternative would be a light at that corner, which would probably be, now that we have a lot more traffic coming off of Van Wagner, which has turned into a corridor into Poughkeepsie, that might be something you might want to consider. The lights at North Avenue and Route 44, the lights at West Road and 44, and the lights at South Avenue and 44, for whatever reasons, one goes out of sync for whatever reason. It throws off the whole works. It's difficult as it is for those lights when they're working correctly in conjunction with each other. But then when one goes out of the sync, it messes up the whole works, and we've got, my office gets inundated with phone calls like you wouldn't believe. So those, how do we get those to be better? There was talk about possibly moving a line back on North Avenue. So if you're coming down North Avenue and you're going to make a left onto 44, that line brings you right up to the corner, the white line where you're supposed to stop. And if the truck is coming at their green light from 44 onto North Avenue, they can't make the turn, especially a big one. So one of the things Keith and I had suggested at that meeting was possibly taking the line and bringing it back on that particular lane so that any truck could make that turn easily, and you wouldn't have to move 8 or 9 cars back, 10 cars sometimes, even more. That would be helpful. Then some of the big things were, what started the process was the intersection of Rossway and Taconic, which is a very difficult on and off. We have 3 roads converging at the same time: Taconic, Rossway, and was it Drake? Drake. So getting on and off the Taconic at certain times is horrible. It's a really dangerous spot to get on and off. And I travel to Taconic all the time. I used to anyway. And it is very bad. So that was one of the ones that prompted a lot of this. And I understand that takes a lot of planning, and that something would be in the future down the line. But just want to, again, bring it to attention. Those are some of the ones that I had. Anyone else on the board? Anything? These are all complaints we've heard over and over.
Yeah, I have something that I found. It was from a Greg Bentley at the time. I don't know if anybody remembers who he is, to Rich Peters, who was with the state DOT. This was written back in January of 2005. Recent residential development on West Road, combined with general traffic growth in the town of Pleasant Valley, have combined to increase delays at the unsignalized intersection at Salt Point Turnpike, which is Route 115, and West Road, which is CR 71. The town has described traffic congestion and safety problems at this intersection. Dutchess County requests that an investigation be initiated towards identifying any deficiencies and developing an improvement project for this intersection. It is conceivable that a traffic signal may be warranted, and the need for turning lanes should be examined. The county is willing to consider sponsoring an intersection improvement project. We have $55,000 in escrow, which was provided by a developer on West Road to offset improvement costs at this intersection. I would like to come and meet with the appropriate DOT representatives to discuss the options which may be available for initiating, sponsoring, and funding improvement to this intersection. Please let me know whom should attend at such a meeting. Thereafter, I will call to schedule the meeting at your convenience. And that, again, is from Gregory Bentley at the time. Personally, okay, I'm no expert on traffic control, okay, let's put it out there. But to me, a traffic light would be dangerous, okay? People come whizzing down around David Drive on Salt Point Turnpike, come around the corner, okay? There are 10 cars and nobody can stop. The next thing you know, somebody's down over the bank into Riddle Park. I suggest a rotary, which should be easily accessible up there. I have been up there. I couldn't walk out there because you could kill yourself. But honestly, guys, okay, Congress doesn't take this long, okay? January 20th, 2005. This should have been taken care of already. But before anything else is started up on the end of Salt Point Turnpike and West Road for Redell Park or anything else, I suggest that you at least look into that. The rotaries are working out very, very well in other areas. I actually can drive to Arlington High School without wanting to strangle someone. So, you know, I mean, come on. It's been $55,000 put in escrow. Was there a project looked into?
I can share some information about that
Okay.
with you. So, Mr. Bentley was the engineering director at Dutchess County Department of Public Works. His term as director ended, I want to say, 7 or 8 years ago. He, a few years ago, went from Dutchess County Department of Public Works. He went back to the state DOT where he worked before working for the county, and he has since retired from the New York State DOT. I'm familiar with the letter you spoke of, and it's accurate that back in 2005, roughly, the county requested from a developer that money to put in escrow for a future improvement project at Salt Point and West Road. In fact, that project for a new traffic signal was actually added to the Dutchess County Transportation Improvement Plan back in the 2000s, around that time. And at that time, the county was the sponsor of this traffic signal or this intersection improvement project. And sometime around 2011, 12, the state funding for these federally assisted transportation projects started to really shrink. They just started reducing the size of that program. The county had over 20 projects on the improvement program at that time. And after the contraction of that program, I think we wound up with about 8 projects, eight or 9 projects that were still left in the program. This intersection improvement at Salt Point and West Road was one of the projects that was removed from that program. So it was on the program, and then it came off the program when the federal and state funding contracted. When that project came off of the state program, a few years later, the county returned the escrow or bond or whatever the finances were. They returned them to that developer. So the county no longer has that money in escrow for a project there. And I'll share with you, $55,000 would probably fund half of the design of that project, and I'm not exaggerating. It would fund about half of the design. It wouldn't build anything. So there would have to be other money put up. I will suggest perhaps if Nickel has information about, do you know anything about the Salt Point West Road intersection? I thought there was a DOT project in the next 2 to 3 years for a signal there. Does that sound familiar?
It sounds familiar, I have to go back and look at the list.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, I have a feeling you may find that the state has that project on their new program that might be a few years out. So we'll get you that information. But that's a little bit of the history, and you were accurate in how you described that.
Yeah, but the bottom line is that we're talking since 2005. And what is it going to take? A death? You know,
Yeah.
let's not wait for deaths.
Yeah, sure,
okay?
understood.
Let's try to get things done ahead of time. And actually, since 2005 or earlier, it's not really ahead of time. So, you know, I'm not understanding why this could have possibly come off of the radar of being on a list to get done. But,
I know it's, you know, the answer, there are no good answers when you ask that question. Why isn't it done? Why didn't it get done? How did it come off the program? There are no good answers for that. But the answer is priorities change over time. And while that was a priority in 2005 with both the state and the federal funding, the funding dried up, and out of all those, just our agency's project list of 20-plus projects, that was no longer a priority for the money we had to spend. That, it's not a good answer, but that's the answer. So now here we are, and I think we're going to find from the state DOT, I think there is currently a project in development at that intersection now, and hopefully you'll get that news fairly soon.
Yeah, could you leave me your business card?
Of course.
Thank you.
We have another question from the gallery.
Thank you once again. You mentioned, or it was mentioned, at the intersection of West Road and Salt Point Turnpike, where the Redell Park is. In 1999, I was president of the Pleasant Valley Lions Club, and Penny Hickman came to one of our meetings to present a proposal with regard to that land that was given to the town. That was 1999, 23 years ago. That park, or that sign, is still there. Nothing else is there in all these 23 years. So with regard to 2005, I got you beat by 6 years. And I don't mean to belittle it, but I'm saying nothing has been done in 23 years to property that was ceded over to the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else from the board?
Yeah, just a couple things really quick. I want to just reiterate the Rossway Road to Conic State Parkway. I think that's really important and dangerous there. It kind of was talked about, but North Avenue at Route 44 and Route 44 and South Avenue Freedom, those two intersections there. I know what you guys are saying is pushing the white line back up onto North Avenue, but if you watch the trucks coming westbound on 44 to make the right onto North Avenue from the state road to the county road, a lot of them actually swing out into the turn lane and then come around and make the right turn. And I've been behind people that thought maybe they were going and making the left into Redell Plaza, and they've actually pulled up next to them and almost got taken out by the truck. So that's one of my concerns there. And then this kind of the opposite, if you're going eastbound on 44, making the right onto South Avenue, if you're sitting at the light there where the stop line is, if there's a couple cars backed up in there, it's usually not the first or second car, but if you're like the third car in line, sometimes they get pretty tight there and you might have to back up and out of the way. So the truck traffic has definitely increased, and they're both kind of state/county roads there. Maybe there's something, I hope it's on your radar to maybe rethink those two intersections.
Sure. Relocating the stop bars is relatively simplistic. It's paint. That's something that can be done. The state has sort of jurisdiction over those intersections. Superseding government has the jurisdiction when two different levels of government meet. In this case, it's county and state. State has the jurisdiction. We would be absolutely willing to work with the state to do whatever it is to get those bars moved. It is just paint. We would do it. If the state didn't want to do it, we would do that with their permission. I'll just say, at the intersection of North Avenue and Route 44, there's a lot going on right there in terms of vehicle movement. As was described very accurately by both of you board members, vehicles on Route 44 trying to get onto North Avenue, whether they're westbound or eastbound on Route 44, they have a hard time. We can put the stop bars back further, that helps, but it only helps when people stop at the stop bar. So, and we can put a sign up that says stop here. That's often what you do. When you relocate a stop bar further away from the intersection, it's another visual cue to tell people this is where we need you to stop. So that's something we're going to look at with the stop bar relocations, is that sign to remind people. The other part of it is the gas station at the corner. It is a very, very tight radius turn on that northeast quadrant. Even if everybody parked where they stopped where they should, swinging a tractor trailer from westbound 44 upwards on North Avenue, extraordinarily difficult just because of the geometry of the curb. What doesn't help is that there are a lot of sign poles right at that curb. And what also doesn't help is when the gas station parks vehicles on the sidewalk right at that intersection. We've probably seen that too. It's a little challenging sometimes to see when there's a vehicle parked right on the sidewalk there at the intersection, and it's just a very, very tight intersection. The best solution ultimately would be to do both, to relocate the stop bars, but also to move those curves out, make them wider, flatter curves. That requires a little bit of reconfiguration of the gas station lot. I don't know where the highway right-of-way boundary is there, but we're going to look at that. We'll look at that with the state DOT. And if there's some obvious thing we can do that isn't terribly intrusive on the gas station, we're going to look at that. We don't want to cause harm to the business there. We don't want to make it difficult for them to have their customers in and out of that gas island. It's just a very, very tight spot for a gas station. In the modern day, we would never plan and design a gas station on such a tight little corner. But it's there, it's been there, it's part of the town. So we'll look at that closely because there's probably a couple of different things that would need to be done to make it the best possible. The stop bars are like the low fruit that we think we can get pretty easily, but we want to take a hard look at all of it to see if there are other things we can do, like I said, that aren't too intrusive to the property owners.
But I really think that thing being back would help tremendously.
It would.
Yeah.
Because if I'm there, I back up if nobody's
Sure.
behind me, and they can make that turn very easily.
Absolutely.
I think that would be
Yeah.
something that you could all agree on out in the hallway tonight.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
you're all here.
Absolutely. That's why we're all here tonight. And just so you know, I happen to live on North off of North Avenue, right across from the quarry. I live on Swain Drive. I don't know if any of you remember Nick Freiseitzer, the electrician in town. I bought Nick's house, I don't know, maybe 16, 17 years ago. So I've been on Swain Drive up on North Ave for the last 17 years. Everything that you're talking about, I live it every day too.
Just one last thing really
So
quick.
you
Uh,
can go first.
Just to finish out, North Avenue, again, which you're very familiar with, if you ever walk on the sidewalk there, kind of to Miss Roberts' point, is you're right, I mean, it's
Tight.
you better have good life insurance if you walk North Avenue on the, I'd rather walk West Road with no sidewalk than the sidewalk there. I don't know if it's on the radar to look of maybe possibly widening it or reconfiguring it or whatnot, but I mean, since I've been here the last 30 years, traffic has significantly increased. You know, the town has developed and the road's the same and it hasn't gotten any bigger in the last 30 years at least. So that's just one of my other concerns because we do have a lot more pedestrian traffic in
Sure.
town now.
So regarding the sidewalks on North Avenue and West Road in town, the planning department has done a lot of pedestrian studies, and I think there was a pedestrian study for West Road, if I'm not mistaken, right? From the West Road School, I guess that'd be sort of southeast toward Route 44. We've looked at that. That's a project that is on our radar, but we haven't started it yet. It needs survey. It needs a lot of sort of preliminary work to get going. It's a tough job because as you come past, is it Martin Road there, right above the intersection. Once you get past Martin Road, there's that rock cliff and there's no shoulder. So that gets a little challenging. Could we put the sidewalk on the other side? Yeah, we could look at all that too. So that's a project that we are looking at. The North Road sidewalks, I think the larger planning studies are looking at extending sidewalks up past the apartments, the two sets of condos or apartments up there, up to Chirot. Quite frankly, because like I said, I live and ride these roads every day. I personally would like to see a project that gets the sidewalks from Chirot, from North Avenue to Chirot, and then up to the Kirchhoff place up past the old farm, past the Wigston farm. We all see it now. We see a lot of pedestrians coming out of those developments from what's the small apartments between,
Brookside Meadow.
what is it, Brookside?
Brookside.
Brookside, right. So between the Kirchhoff development, Brookside, the two apartments that are on North Avenue, there's a lot of pedestrian generation there. And I think the planning department has kind of identified those areas as good candidates for sidewalk projects. I will offer that when the county builds sidewalks on our roads, we do that only with an agreement from the town that the town or its residents will maintain snow removal effort. Much to the chagrin of some of the residents here, we understand that that's a burden on the homeowners. But we don't have the ability, as we build sidewalks throughout the entire county, we just don't have the manpower to clear them all, and we put that onto the towns, and of course, the towns typically by ordinance put that on the adjacent property owners. But we would consider sidewalk projects under those terms, and we just like to tell everybody that ahead of time, so that it's not a surprise when we start talking about project specifics.
Thank you.
Can I just revisit something you said about the West Road Salt Point Turnpike intersection? You kind of mentioned the letter, and then I guess some money being put aside for escrow. Did you actually say that the money was returned to the applicant?
That's correct.
Yeah, so who does the applicant then speak to, because he never got the money back? It's been confirmed while we were sitting here, so like, and I mean, like, somebody would know that they got a $55,000 check back.
Yeah,
so-
it wasn't a check. I think a bond, a performance bond was posted with the county, and I believe the county returned that bond.
Okay.
I will confirm that and give you that information, but I am fairly certain that that bond was returned. It wasn't a cash. It wasn't like
I
a
gotcha.
cash payment.
Okay.
I think it was a bond that was turned in. I'll put a note to check on that.
Perfect, that'd be great.
That's Mr. Kirchhoff. We have to be secret about who it was. It was Mr. Kirchhoff.
No, we don't have to, there's no secrecy, but yeah, no, it was just, you know.
And I know that you can't answer this, but I have to agree with Ms. Roberts, okay? I own a house on Route 44, and the poor kid that I have plowing or doing the sidewalk wants to strangle me most of the time, because where they go fast, and it just like flies up and goes everywhere, and I understand they have to do that because we want the roads clear. But I kind of like that idea of putting the wing down and making it, and I know that would also be kind of difficult because we have the Central Hudson poles that you have to watch out.
Because the poles aren't in the way for them dropping the side plow.
Oh, they're not?
No.
Okay.
They used to do it. The town guys would come by, they were nice
The town
enough.
guys?
They don't plow North Avenue, but they were nice enough that they would drop that side plow sometimes and clear it up. It hasn't been done in years, I will say that, hasn't been done in years, but they used to.
Okay.
And
Well, we'll look into it. Thank you for
Yeah,
bringing that up.
Good.
I just wanted to say something about, you were mentioning about widening the sidewalks that we already have. That's impossible. The houses from 44 up to the apartments, many of them are 160 years old or so. My well is 2 feet off the sidewalk. You can't take any more of my property. No, most places, when they put a sidewalk in, build a buffer so that when it's plowed onto the buffer, not onto the sidewalk. We're getting the ice, the water, the salt, the debris, which freezes by the time we can come back and get it. It's solid ice. It's not okay just to say we're gonna put it in the sidewalk and make the homeowners take care of it. Not when there's not a buffer.
Anyone else? Questions for,
I just wanted to mention that I was doing some searching on the DOT website while you were speaking, and there is an item on there for a collection of signal improvements, and one of them says Route 115 and West Road, and it says it's part of a package that's supposed to be the bid opening in spring of 2025 and construction starting thereafter. So, you know, if that's scheduled for design, it would be good for the town to be looped in on that as far as how, you know, how that will
Sure.
take place.
That's on our project, our neighborhood website, the dot.nyc.gov/projects.
It's on, yeah, project ID 881572.
So as we get closer to that, we do involve the town and county, and so they're aware of what's going on, what's involved, so we're pretty close, a little bit closer to that date.
Thank you.
anyone else? Gentlemen, I want to thank you very much for your time, appreciate it.
Thank you.
and for your quick response. It was appreciated.
Thank you, appreciate the opportunity to come talk to y'all. What we'd like to do is, I think I've got a pretty good summary of what we spoke about and what we heard. What I'd like to do is, we'll coordinate a single response from everything we heard. I'll talk to the regional director's office and we'll create a coordinated response, so you'll have a document from both the county and the state. And, you know, local roads, you obviously have your means with your local highway superintendent, but we would work with John, we always have. We'd work with John to anything that has to do with the county road on his side of the ledger. We'd be more than happy to work with John that way too. So we'll kind of summarize this in a letter back to you, make sure we understood what we heard, and then we'll follow up with information as projects or ideas develop. We'll keep you apprised.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very
Appreciate
much.
Thanks.
it. Okay. So at this time, we're going to open up the meeting to the public for new business, agenda items only.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
So if anyone would like to get up and speak of any of the agenda items that we have tonight, we can use this microphone right here. We don't have to use the
Well, we can give that-
makeshift.
We can give that back to
We could probably give that back. What? Yeah, yeah.
So this is for agenda items only.
What is it? I'm sorry, I can't hear you. Okay, not seeing anyone for agenda items only, I move we close the meeting to the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
New business discussions. Authorize the town clerk permission to advertise for highway material bids from the highway superintendent. I see our highway superintendent is here. John, you want to talk on that at all, or?
I can, it's, basically the same thing that we have to do every year. We have to put out, requests for bids for the various materials and stuff we use for the year. Blacktop, salt, stuff like that. We usually piggyback off the county with the salt, so we don't have to worry about that. But we do highway sand and anything we need for our road repairs. So Mary Beth puts the bids out for us. We put them out this time of the month. We usually open them up first week of December, and then I go through them, figure out which bids are gonna fit our needs the best, and then I make my decisions and submit them to you guys, and, you okay them for me, and then we move on from there and award the bids.
Yep. All right. So I'll make a motion that we allow the town clerk to advertise for the highway bid materials as pursuant to the dates in the letter that John sent us.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Indoor Pickleball League. This is growing.
What are we doing?
Oh,
What are we gonna do in here?
I don't know.
Okay.
I'm waiting to hear myself.
Hi. I was approached at one of the basketball evaluations of one of our ex-basketball coaches whose son's still involved. Anyway, she's a big pickleball player. So we started talking about it, and we felt we were at, we happened to be at Arthur S. May, but it's the same size gym as LMS. And she was saying how we can probably have 3 courts set up. They're all portable. The nets could actually be used outside if we wanted to expand on the courts that we have now at the tennis court. But in prior experience, when you have a couple of people that are really excited, you have a nucleus of people, you can probably get it up and going. So I was thinking it would be nice to start this adult league in January. My only challenge is I really would like to have it at LMS because I think that's a little bit more centrally located, and I think they're easier to work with than Arthur S. May. But I might end up needing that time because I still have not gotten an answer from BOCES whether we can use the gym or not. And I have a lot of different people talking to them from different angles. So I spoke to them again on Friday. I wanted to wait. Mondays are kind of crazy. On I'll try to call them again tomorrow to see where my gym availability is. But this would not start until January, so we have a little bit of time. We have another month. This could actually be worked upon and improved, hopefully in December. The logistics are gonna be a little hairy, to say the least, because do you have it as an open court and people just show up, or do you have people sign up? Because these people that get involved in pickleball really get involved, and there's
Yeah.
different levels. So if you want to play with someone at your level, you'd have to see, and forgive me, I don't know all the terminology yet, you would see what their level is, and you try to sign up for them. So I have to also call our software company, MyRec, to see if there's a way we can work out the scheduling. But,
Sandra, is there already leagues or like around the county?
oh, yeah,
Okay.
these people play, normally, I believe she said they play on Friday nights outdoors, but where are they gonna go once the cold weather comes?
Right, right.
You know, this would give us a jump, this would ensure that come the spring, that the pickleball courts up by Helen Aldridge will already have a league that wants to use them. So, there's quite a bit of legwork that has to be done, but I'm pretty confident we'll get something up and going for January.
Well, it's certainly growing, there's no doubt about it.
So, just really quick, so I like the idea of LMS. I don't know if you know, but in James Baird Park, there's a whole bunch of pickleball courts. And all summer, spring, and fall long, there's tons of people that are
playing,
waiting
yeah.
to play. So I think LMS is kind of maybe a central location to get those folks that can't play outside anymore there. But have you talked to maybe the town of LaGrange to see if maybe we can collaborate with them to see if
I
maybe...
haven't talked to any other towns yet, and that's one of the things I have to do, just to get an idea of how do they handle scheduling, and, but that's a good idea. Maybe LaGrange would want to partner with us.
And is there, you were saying nets and stuff, is that something that you would have, your department would have to purchase?
Yeah,
or-
and we came, yeah, and the woman who was helping me with it, Teresa, I mean, she was Googling right when we were sitting there, so we, money-wise to invest, you're looking at a nominal amount of money. And like I said, if it really grows, we could use these nets outside, even in a parking lot, you know, like up by me, by Helen Aldridge.
So you would have like a registration fee like soccer or something like that?
Yeah, we probably have some kind of a registration fee. I'm not sure how much. That's another reason why I wanted to see what the other towns are doing. People that really get into pickleball, I believe not only come with their own paddles, but they come with their own balls. But we would still have to have that. You know, you're not going to get people that are diehard starting right away, you know. And you want to grow it, so you want people who've never played before to play, and people who have played to play. So I'm kind of excited. I think this will be nice. It'll be another program we can have for adults, other than volleyball. You know, and this wouldn't interfere with volleyball, because we were thinking Friday night, Thursday night is volleyball at West Road. So...
One of the things, though, about Helen Aldridge is recently, like the past couple of days, somebody mentioned to me that they went up to play pickleball.
Oh, they did?
And some people came up about 15 minutes later that always go there to play tennis. And those people asked the pickleball players to leave, and they said, that's not a pickleball court. So everybody's got to learn to, like, share.
They have to play nice in the
And be
sandbox.
nice in the
Yeah,
sandbox.
We'll have signs up, and, I mean, I already got a complaint from a tennis player that the pickleballs are going to ruin the tennis court.
How's that?
I guess because it's a different, it's almost like a wiffle ball. It's not gonna ruin the tennis
No.
courts. I mean, the other towns do this too,
No.
with their tennis courts, so.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a matter of, it's something new that people have to get used to,
Right,
so.
right.
You know, we'll just have to get them gradually
Right.
into it, so.
Do you have that on your list to up, because I think the sign on the tennis court itself right now
Oh,
says only tennis.
Okay, you know, that's a good
Because
point.
I brought my daughter in there, and I'll admit that I was letting her kick a soccer ball that was laying around, and I felt guilty, but I could see maybe the tennis players using that as saying, look, it says it's only for tennis.
Yeah, you know what?
It says it
you
right
could
on
be
the sign, this court's only for tennis, so. But we've added pickleball, so we
All
might
right.
want to update the sign.
Okay, yeah,
Okay.
very good point. Am I up after this?
Yeah, you might as well
so
stay
I might
there.
as well hang out, right? Okay, so we had the RFPs go out for not only the fill for the depression, but also to work the site.
Right.
So there's a question of where this money's gonna come from. I mean, there's gotta be money in the general fund somewhere to handle.
Well,
I
think
mean,
that's what the question
I
is, whether
came
the-
up with a high estimate. The bank run in the soil is approximately $9,100. The site work, I put it 7 days. I really don't know if the site work's gonna take 7 days.
Right.
Hopefully, it'll take more like 5 or under 5 days.
What's the total at 7 days?
So each day would be $1,200, so the total of 7 days is another $8,400.
Thank you.
Now, our town engineer, Greg, was out there last week because we were out there with figuring out exactly where the well is going to be dug. And he did do some more of a site inspection. We actually spoke about it a little bit. He was suggesting that the parking lot where the chain link fence is, if part of that fence could be taken down, the trucks coming in to deliver the material do not even have to go into the park. They can stay right in the parking lot, and they can strategically keep adding the fill so that it'll help
Yeah,
with the
that's
site
smart.
work. When he was doing that, we actually walked into the depression, and he would like some small tree removal be done, and I'm talking small, prior to them coming in and doing the work. And we did mark all the trees. I went back and actually marked them with caution tape. He feels that this is something our maintenance department can do. We're not talking
We're
about,
talking about trees like that
yeah,
big.
little tree. If I had a chainsaw, I can probably do
Yeah.
it, so.
Are they, what do you call it,
They're like things growing out of the
oh, but can what is that? Brush hog, thank you.
No.
Oh, no, they're
Bigger
too,
bigger than a brush hog?
No.
All right.
yeah, they're too, yeah, it's a little,
Yeah, right.
plus you have to be careful, they're near the pipes, so you don't, even though they're small, you don't want them crashing into the pipe. And it is kind of an incline, so I don't know if a brush hog would even be able to handle that kind of a.
There's other stumps in there too that you have to navigate.
Yeah.
Right,
you'd never
right.
be able to-
So you know, you're probably looking at what, maybe a half a day of work for Tom and Matt to clear that out? Greg will discuss with Brady, who's going to do the site work, and Snow Fountain, his ideas of how the fill should go in. He had someone in his company do an aerial, and Greg is willing to go out there and actually put in stakes that can let them know how high he wants them to go in certain areas. But that means there's quite a bit of coordination that has to be done.
So you can figure on 7 days.
Yeah.
You're gonna look at a couple of days of planning, how they're gonna go do it, and then actually,
Well, as long as the fill keeps coming, and hopefully this gentleman knows what he's doing, he'll just, hopefully spread it out, and there won't be a delay, because once they start delivering, they're not gonna wanna stop for a couple of days, I don't think.
so at some point, we, the board, have to decide where we're gonna get that
So
money from.
we're gonna have to figure out where the money's gonna come from.
When's the, this hasn't started yet, has it?
No.
No, no.
When
no.
is the plan to start all this?
Tomorrow.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, well, I was going to say that, but I didn't want to say that.
What is your idea to pay for this?
Well, there's only one place. I mean, there's not really a lot of choices.
So I think I get that we're kind of stuck with one place to pay for this, but I think I'm looking at this as a learning lesson that we have a Parks and Rec reserve fund. So before we start these projects, we should be allocating money from this, letting it sit the 30 days for the permissive referendum, and then going ahead with the projects. And if we have to, we can move general fund back into this reserve fund, but it's we're kind of in a bad spot
Yeah,
that
it's kinda
we're
late at
started
this
a
point.
project and we don't know where we're paying for it.
Yeah, so,
So you're gonna work with Melanie to?
Yeah, we'll take care of that.
yeah.
Okay,
So the next item is money also.
yep, same predicament.
Now, I know last year when we had discussed the budget, some of you weren't on the board, the suggestion was that it would come out of, rather than put it in the rec budget for this year, it would come out of the mysterious general fund, I guess.
Well, the mysterious general fund is not like the ultimate cloud piggy bank we could just keep drawing from. And Michael's right, we should have a fund
Right.
that we finance, and then you kind of stuck within that perimeter, which is, I think, sometimes a good thing.
Yeah, so I think that's the important part moving forward, is realizing that you have Parks and Recreation reserve funds, hundreds of thousands of dollars in those reserve funds, and those are specifically set aside for you to do these projects, and it allows the public, if they are against our decision to allocate the money to do that project, they could go out and petition it, and they have their say. But you have the money to do this stuff, so I think just going
this-
forward, we need to make sure we're,
But would this be part of the
Yes.
special funds? Because my understanding of the special funds aren't maintenance,
so.
they're more capital projects,
So
something
the
new.
Park and Rec Reserve Fund, I have it right here, is for the construction, reconstruction, and acquisition of park equipment, buildings for parks, land acquisition for parks, building and land improvements related to parks, and
Yeah, it
capital
falls underneath
expenditures related to
Okay,
rec
okay,
programs.
so
So
then that- yeah.
you have a broad range of stuff that you know, these kind of things. But I think as a board, we have to make sure before when you have these ideas, we need to make sure that we're maybe pulling from this, and then we can keep upping this from general fund if need be. But that's why this money is already allocated for this, was
Right.
to be used for this kind of stuff, so.
Okay? We'll talk about that tomorrow.
Oh, okay, because the work's been done.
Understand?
Well, yeah, this one's can't
Yeah.
come from this. This has to
Yeah,
come from the
this is
general
different.
fund.
Oh,
I'm just
okay.
saying, going forward,
Forward,
we
yeah.
need to make sure that we're
Absolutely.
figuring out the funding before we do these projects.
We should not be thinking about this during the last hour
No.
of this
Yeah.
project.
Okay? So same thing with the tennis court,
Well, yeah.
down the line.
Was that resolution, that resolution that was passed for the tennis court didn't allocate a specific place where it was coming from?
I don't
Because I
think-
know somebody sent the resolution just like 2 or 3 days ago.
I don't think, I have a copy of it. I don't think it says,
I don't think it was specific as to where the money came from. It was just granted to do the work, and that was it. Yeah,
yeah, it doesn't specifically say
Right.
where the monies are going to come from.
all right. We'll discuss this tomorrow, okay?
Thanks, Sandy.
Thank you.
All right. Granicus implementation.
Yeah, so I asked for it to be on the agenda just so we can get an update where we are.
Well, I was asked to sign it. I guess it was all cleared by our attorney, correct? Everything was good, cleared by you, and
All right, so what's the plan?
so again, we got to figure out where we're going to pay for that. and then I believe we start training on it.
So wait a minute, this was already done? Granicus was done, was signed?
Well, we were only waiting, Mary, we were only waiting for their contract to come back cleaner or something a little bit more definitive, I believe, right, Emily?
Yeah, the original contract they sent us didn't quite match up with the bid that they had submitted. And I think it was partly because we decided to only go with one of the two services they were offering. So we had them revise it, and we also had them revise it so it was only a one-year commitment, and then the town could decide whether to continue.
So who's taking on getting this implemented? Is it the IT committee? Is it you? Is it a staff member? It's been like 7 months since we passed it, so I want to make sure we get this going. And if I have to do it, I just want the okay to be able to do it. Do you want the IT committee to work on it, or do you have an employee in mind that you want to do this?
Honestly,
the
the
only-
IT committee should.
Yeah, IT committee should get it going. The only thing that I would hope to suggest, because apparently this is going to be used maybe with other divisions of their stuff elsewhere and implemented elsewhere. I'd just like to see more training for more people. I don't want to see it just,
Well, I'd like to see it just get
one or two
started.
people. I'm sorry?
Honestly, I'd like to see it just get started.
Yeah,
This has been ridiculous. This was just signed today.
yeah. Well, it just got to me today.
So,
Printed and done.
are you okay with me reaching out to them and starting the process? Okay. The next thing's the credit card acceptance.
Yep.
Where are we at with that? I saw an email a couple weeks ago that the contract was ready. Is it signed?
Yeah, and the courts are really asking as well.
Do you have the contract?
I do not.
Emily, do
Nothing's
you
on
have
it.
the contract? So the credit card
card.
acceptance, I saw an email a couple of weeks ago that the contract was ready to be signed.
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the contract?
On my computer, yeah.
All right, so I'll make a motion that you sign this contract tonight so we can, Mary can
Start it up.
start working on it tomorrow.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye. That way it gets done.
Okay.
And Mary, do you, Councilwoman Albrecht, do you want to take the lead on that, since it was you and I that worked on it, but,
On the credit card? Yeah, that's fine.
okay. That's all.
Just to cycle back, because I reread the resolution, it talks about a dollar figure, but we never set up a bank account for this, for the painting of the tennis courts.
I already got that.
Oh, I didn't know we were, sorry.
We already got that over here
Oh, okay.
while you were looking it up. Highway furnace replacement attorney and town supervisor. So, Emily, you want to take the lead on this?
Highway furnace replacement. Yeah, okay, sorry. So this, we discussed at the last meeting, but then it became an urgent situation and needed to be done on an emergency basis. And so I just wanted to bring it up so that you could report back to the board and the public that it was taken care of. And since the purchase was made without a board vote, it would be helpful, I think, for the board to just vote to ratify that.
I make a motion, we ratify the furnace replacement.
Second.
Any
Can we have a
discussion?
Yeah. So what are we're voting to ratify, what are we,
Just voting to confirm that the town board is in agreement with that purchase.
that this was an emergency and it was a purchase that they could do?
Yeah.
So,
Well, it's an emergency, but.
yes, so this is I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here, but I get that this is an emergency. I totally agree that if a furnace breaks and there's no heat, it needs to be replaced. The way that this all happened, though, and the way it was presented to the board, I personally don't feel that, so basically what ended up happening is at the last meeting 3 weeks ago, we were presented that there was two quotes at the time that came in to replace a 2,000K BTU furnace, and they weren't equivalent. One was, let's just say 15 something, and they had a replacement, and the other one was like half the price, and it wasn't even close to it. So at the last board meeting, the last thing we talked about was that we need to get equivalent quotes. And then that was on a Monday. Then like Thursday or Friday, we all received an email that we hadn't gotten 3 exact things for the same stuff. And then there was discussion about the size of it. So I called one of the companies, and I'm not going to use names of any of the companies, but I called one of the companies that supposedly didn't get an updated quote. And within an hour and a half, 2 hours, they had a quote to us for a couple $100 more than the quote that we, I guess, awarded for a bigger unit. And there was some confusion, and I'm not sure where it happened, but that we were potentially upgrading the unit, but then all of a sudden we weren't upgrading the unit, and then it's still the same price. So I don't know what happened with this.
Okay, so
well, I guess my first question, is it fixed as of today?
Well, no, it had to be ordered immediately.
Okay, so that's another point, is we didn't go with the other company because it supposedly would take them a little bit of lead time, and the company that we went with was they could just get it and they could fix it. So we could have technically gotten a bigger unit for like $200 more. Instead, we went with this other company who we were told that there would be no lead time. So I personally, I'm going to vote no to ratifying this, just for the fact that I personally don't think at this point that the procurement policy classifies this as an emergency because of all the processes that have happened beforehand. I just personally, I don't feel like at this point the process was really probably followed the way it should. And that's just my opinion. It doesn't mean that it actually did happen any other way, but just from what I've observed.
I'll just chime in that, I mean, there were a number of quotes, and there was quite a significant explanation as to, why the choice was made and why it was an urgent situation. So it was my advice that it needed to be done on an emergency basis. I just, thought that it would be good to close the loop and have a vote on the record.
Yeah, and I understand.
Anyone else?
Is this the same size unit?
Microphone.
Oh, sorry. I hate that guy.
Please.
Yeah.
Maybe I can clear some of this up for everybody. Maybe not. Maybe I'll make it more cloudy. Anyway, I was told by our maintenance company, Hastings Heat, who does not do installs, they just do furnace maintenance, that furnace needed to be replaced. Do not turn it on, it'll burn the building down. The whole upgrade thing that kind of made all this a little cloudy was probably my fault in the way I worded it, because my thought was at some point down the road, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years, 8 years, whatever, we're either going to build a new highway building on that spot or new location or whatever have you. So because there's already natural gas run to the building, I suggested to the supervisor, let's get the quotes for both fuel oil, which we already have, and natural gas, which we already have. With the fact that the new building, 99% will be natural gas, because why use fuel oil if natural gas is already there? So in one essence, yes, the unit would be an upgrade because it would be natural gas, but it's still the same BTUs. We still need that 200,000 BTU unit. It's the main heater for my shop. And it's still not working. So it is an emergency. I know we've kind of had some lucky weather the past few weeks, and thank you. I'll take it all winter long if we get it. But that being said, it's going to get cold, and we're going to be in a tough spot. So the units we're getting, they are compatible. Are they identical? No, because one's fuel oil and one's natural gas. So by upgrading, that's what I meant by my statement of upgrading, was just, let's take a unit. If we're going to buy it, let's buy it once. We can take that unit and move it into the new building. Will it be big enough to do the whole building? Probably not. Just like the building I'm in now has 4 furnaces in it. So you figure the new building is probably going to require probably 2. I'm just taking a guess. So there's could be moved over and still be a natural gas unit in the new building. So that's why my suggestion was to do that and quote-unquote upgrade. So hopefully that kind of helps clear up the,
Yeah.
where the upgrade thing came from. That was
So
my
I
terminology.
talked to one of the companies that we didn't go with, and they went out, all three of them went out and visited it. And they told me that the current unit that's up there right now isn't 200,000 BTU. They said that the oil is 100 PSI with a 1.5-inch oil nozzle. The max it's putting out is like 165 K BTU or whatever it is. So I think that's where I started questioning, well, we're trying to get a 200,000 BTU unit, and then this whole upgrade conversation started, and then the other company actually came back and they offered us like a 230,000 K BTU unit input with an output of 180 something, and the current company, I believe, is a 200,000 input with like a 160 something output. So what my point is that the other company actually offered us a better deal because they were going to supply us actually a bigger unit than what the other what we went with for like $200 more.
But it also took 2 weeks for us to get that quote from them, like pulling teeth. And I made several phone calls, and Jen made several phone calls, the assistant to the supervisor made, and then they kept sending us these quotes for these homeowner units,
Correct.
units. And the other company was the only one that said,
Correct.
okay, this is the unit you're asking for. And so that's why, you know, kind of like the nth hour, I mean, the weather's going to turn, and
But
eventually.
I think
the
that's
problem.
kind of, yeah. I mean, I called them and he called me back in like 5 minutes and had the quote. And I'm not saying you guys didn't do that. What I'm saying is that when I called them, they had a quote to me within an hour and a half for exactly what I asked for.
So-
and
Hold on.
This is
I
my.
get you got it in an hour and a half, but that was after 5 or 6 phone calls
I'm not-
between this gentleman, my office as well.
Can I finish,
So by the
please?
third time, yeah.
I'd
okay,
like to
we
make
got
a
it out.
point of order. That one person could speak at a time under Robert's rules, so can I finish really quick? So my point is, yes, even if it took 5 people to call, we all talked about getting even quotes. We finally had 2 even quotes. If not, this other company was actually offering the town more for basically the same price. From what I understand is we're going with this other company because they didn't get back to us. And I get it, that's frustrating, but they finally did give us a quote, and we ended up going with the company that's supplying us a smaller version where we could have gotten, and I get the lead time, but one of the things we were told with this other company is that it was going to get done, they had it, and it was ready to go. And that was one of my concerns. That's why I was okay with this, but when are they planning on installing this?
So, the company that we went with was able to secure the unit that we needed at 4 p.m. that Friday. We stopped them, all of us. Then it goes back to, can you get it again? Yes, within a week. The other companies weren't able to give us those exact same units, okay, for at least 6 weeks. Now, that's what I got, and I talked to all 3 companies, not just the one, okay? All 3 said the same thing. The only person that can get it right away was the one we went with, and that's why we went that way.
Can I go back to one
And I believe,
little-
hold on 1 second, I'm not done. And I believe he said he can start it within this coming week. So that's still the identical equivalent to what we're going from, with what we have. Yes, it's considered an upgrade because it's gas. That's the only time upgrade is used. But they can get that and start us within a week, I believe he told us.
I still have just one question.
Sure, no problem.
What size unit do you actually have now?
So I was told by the 2 different companies that it is a 200,000 BTU unit. And the fact that it's only putting out, 165 or what it's putting out is because of the size of nozzle that they use, to put the
Right.
fuel out and, so on and so forth.
Correct.
So the unit's not really even functioning at its max. So, a 200,000 gas unit would be more efficient. Gas is just by nature more efficient. That's why, again, I use that word upgrade, but. Yeah. And you don't get 200,000 BTUs out of a 200,000 BTU unit, so you can, you don't
Right.
ever get the max out of it. It's you get like 85% or 90%. I think that gas is like 90%. So you don't ever get the full BTU ratings out of the unit anyway.
Okay. I think the next time that anything like this comes up, it needs to be in writing to each person that is giving us the estimates, so that everybody is on the same playing field. Because reading this thing,
Yeah, like I
it's
said,
like
it's
some
kind of,
kind of foreign language.
with the time of year that it happened and everything,
Yeah.
it would just kind of turn into a,
Well,
unfortunately,
if I may, and
a snowball.
the interesting
Yeah.
thing is, all three companies came out. All three companies inspected the same precise unit. They all saw what was hanging there, and all three came up with three different,
Well, it just says, from the beginning,
Well,
if
from the beginning, you call the
had
three
put out
companies.
a thing of what it all was, I think it would have been
Well, I
easier
didn't
for me
know
in the
exactly what it
long run.
was. I mean, I'm not an oil burner technician, know-it-all, so they had to come out and tell me exactly what it was. I mean, I can climb up there on the ladder and go, well, I can read the label just like anybody else, but, you know, when the professional comes out and the gentleman from Hastings comes out and says, look, this is what it is, then I kind of have to go with their expertise.
Right.
You know, so that's kind of where I was basing my, my knowledge from, was from the expertise of the companies that were coming out.
Thank you.
No problem.
I
So we
would
have
urge
a
the,
motion, second.
Yeah.
Roll call?
You want to do a roll call? Go ahead.
Councilwoman Albrecht.
Yay.
Councilman Mazzella.
A yay.
Councilman O'Hanlon.
Aye.
Councilman Reifenberg.
No?
Supervisor Delvecchio.
Aye.
Motion carries.
we have talked about revisiting that procurement policy, because it needs to be clearer how this is supposed to work, yeah.
All right, new business resolutions.
Mr. Supervisor, point of order. Did I mishear, or did you call for public comment on old business already?
We did that earlier, but we come back around again, do it again.
We opened the meeting again.
We opened it twice.
I believe you called for new business and not old business, but I may be mistaken. I have a comment to make on the budget process when that's appropriate.
Yeah, I think-
We open it back up to the public again, you'll have a chance at it. New business resolutions, adopting the annual budget for fiscal year 2023. Town Board Resolution Number 1101, 2022, adopting the annual budget for fiscal year 2023. Whereas on October 7, 2022, the Town Board accepted the preliminary budget and scheduled a public hearing in accordance with Town Law 106. And whereas a public hearing on the preliminary budget was held on October 24th, 2022, and all parties in attendance were permitted an opportunity to speak in favor or in opposition to the proposed 2023 budget, and the public hearing was closed at the same night. And whereas the town board considered the public's comments as well as comments made by members of the board, determined that at October 24th meeting to make several changes to the preliminary budget as authorized by Town Law 109-1. And whereas the following is a summary of the changes approved by the town board on October 24th. Appropriations, Legislative Board, A10104, $4,450. Supervisor, A12204, $5,150. Buildings, CE, A16204, $186,800. Contingency, A19904, $10,000. Refuse equipment, A81602, $41,800. Revenues, sales tax, A1120, $750,000. Zoning fees, A2110, $50,000. Planning fees, A2115, $20,000. change the amount of fund balance used to $200,000. Now therefore be resolved that pursuant to and in accordance with the provisions of Town Law 109 and other applicable provisions law, Annex Budget representing the preliminary budget as revised and is hereby approved and adopted as the final budget of the Town of Pleasant Valley for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2023. And be it further resolved that the town clerk is hereby directed to enter the 2023 annual budget adopted herein in the minutes of the town board, and be it further resolved that the town clerk and supervisor are hereby directed to transmit the 2023 annual budget to Dutchess County in a manner prescribed by Town Law 115, and be it further resolved that the town board further directs that the amounts identified in the 2023 annual budget adopted herein shall be appropriated for the fiscal year of 2023, dated November 7, 2022. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, if I may. So we're gonna, I'm gonna have to make a motion to table this, because we're gonna have to, before we can adopt our budget, aren't we gonna have to authorize the contract for the ambulance service? I mean, those numbers are part of this, aren't they?
They are.
And then we also, don't we need to clarify the town funding for the employee HRA plan before we adopt? I mean, like, what if we make changes to those, is what I'm trying to say.
Well,
So, I mean, like, we can't approve one before we approve the other. So I make a motion that we table this.
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Save you for later.
So Town Board Resolution Number 1102, 2022, clarifying the town funding for employees and retirees' health insurance plan deductibles for the year 2023. Whereas the Town of Pleasant Valley covers part of the cost of the employees' health insurance plan deductibles and currently provides that funding through a health reimbursement account, HRA, and whereas the Town Board wishes to clarify the maximum amounts provided for the employees and retirees towards their health insurance deductibles for the year 2023. Now therefore it be resolved that for 2023, active union members and union member retirees will be entitled to health insurance deductible contribution pursuant to the terms of their current union contract, and resolved that non-union employees will be entitled to a maximum of $2,250 for those on individual health plans, or $4,500 for those on a spouse or family plan. I resolve that non-union retirees entitled to 80% of the amount allowed for the active employees, so an individual retiree will be entitled to maximum of $1,800, and resolved that this resolution replaces and supersedes the statements made at the October 24th, 2022 Town Board meeting.
So moved.
I got a
Second.
motion.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Town Board Resolution Number 1103, 2022, establishing and funding a repair reserve fund, whereas the Town Board has determined that it is in the best interest of the town of Pleasant Valley to establish a repair reserve fund to set aside money to repair capital improvements or equipment when necessary. And whereas pursuant to General Municipal Law, Section 6D, a municipal governing board may establish a repairs reserve fund which can be used in accordance with the requirements laid out in that section of law. Now therefore be resolved that pursuant to Section 6D, the General Municipal Law, there is a hereby established a repair reserve fund to be known as the Repair Reserve Fund of the Town of Pleasant Valley, and be it further resolved that the purpose of the Repair Reserve Fund is to accumulate monies to finance repairs of capital improvements or equipment, which repairs are of type not recurring annually or at shorter intervals, And be further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby directed to deposit and secure the monies of this reserve fund in a manner provided of Section 10 in the general municipal law, and be it further resolved that the town board may determine to invest the monies in repair reserve fund in a manner provided by Section 11 of the general municipal law and consistent with the investment policy of the town, and any interest earned or capital gains realized on the monies so deposited or invested shall accrue to become part of the repair reserve fund, and be it further resolved that the town supervisor shall account for the reserve fund in a manner which maintains the separate identity of the reserve fund and shows the date and the amount of each sum paid into the fund, interest earned by the fund, capital gains or losses resulting from the sale of investments of the fund, the amount and date of each withdrawal from the fund, and the total assets of the fund, showing cash balance and a schedule of investments, and shall, at the end of each fiscal year, render to the board a detailed report of the operation condition of the repair reserve fund. And be it further resolved that the town board authorizes the transfer of, what did we decide?
I think we were going to recommend 75,000.
75,000 from the general fund, unexpended balance into the repair reserve fund, and be it further resolved that the expenditures from this repair fund shall be made only for purpose of repair reserve fund is established, except as otherwise provided by law, and be it further resolved that no expenditure shall be made from this repair reserve fund without approval of town board, and such additional actions or proceedings as may required by Section 6D of the general municipal law or any other law, including but not limited to holding public hearing when required.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye. I make a motion to allow Town Board Resolution 1104, 2022 on the agenda.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Authorizing contract with Mobile Life Support Services for the ambulance service for the year 2023. Whereas the town of Pleasant Valley contracts the provision of ambulance service within the Pleasant Valley Fire District area. And whereas the town released an RFP for ambulance service for the years of 2023 and 2024, requesting proposals from both the current hours of service as well as extended hours of service. And whereas the RFP has sent to the companies offering service in the area, 2 companies submitted proposals. The town board has reviewed the proposals and determined that the proposal from Mobile Life Support Services to provide advanced life support services between the hours of 5 a.m. to 5 p.m., Monday through Friday, represents the best option for the coming year. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board authorizes the town supervisor to execute a contract with Mobile Life Support Services for ambulance service for the calendar year of 2023 at a town subsidy cost of $207,500, which contract will be prepared by the attorney to the town to reflect the town's needs and terms of Mobile Life's November 2nd, 2022 proposal. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes. Did we talk to the fire department about this?
We did.
Okay. So the issue that I guess the issue that I have is I talked to a couple people from the fire department tonight, and they still say that they're waiting for a response from the town. 1. 2, they asked us for extended hours because they're having a problem meeting the hours that they currently have. What I'm really rhetorically asking is, if they can't get wheels off the ground now and we're going 5 to 5, how do we think that they're gonna get wheels off the ground next year with potentially less people, right? And like what I'm saying is, if they really can't get wheels off the ground and we need to, then taxpayers have to pay for that time frame, right? Like we have to have ambulance service for our residents, right, for our taxpayers. So what I'm saying is, we can't just arbitrarily approve, even though it is the best option for the town, I do agree with how this is worded, it may not be the best option for taxpayers, because if we have to pay for that as taxpayers, we have to pay for that, like, period. If we need that service and they can't provide it, we have to pay for it. I don't know how to say it differently.
Did we, after the RFP, the bids came in, I know we as a board saw them, but was there any discussion between the town and the commissioners of the fire district?
Not since we met, that day that we met.
Okay, so I think it would be, personally, listen, our first job is the safety of our residents. And the commissioners came to us, letting us know that they are pretty much unable to cover the current hours that they cover now. And they came to us a few months ago. And we're now going to make a decision to just cover what they currently cover now without actually talking to the fire department to figure out the repercussions of that. I think it would be kind of silly to just go ahead and do what we think is right without actually talking to the professionals who go out and save people. I don't know why we haven't talked to the fire department when the bids came in, to
So
get their opinion.
If you'd like to table this and
I just, my personal opinion is, we're not experts on going out and saving people, and I would think that when we got these bids back and only one supplied what the fire department was asking, we would probably contact them and see if they would be able to get through another year with the current hours. I just don't feel
So would you
comfortable.
like to table this resolution?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to table this resolution.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
As a matter of timeline.
Yeah, I was gonna say, though, we have to act fast on this.
Well, the budget, I think the date that you have to approve the budget by is what, the 20th? Yeah, so, but if you did, there's no reason you need to approve the ambulance contract right away. So, I mean, if you adopted the budget and then decided to do something different with the ambulance service, you'd just have to amend the budget. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I see what you're saying.
I know there was some confusion about if the ambulance service counts towards the town's tax cap. Do you know if that's the case or not?
I don't know.
I believe it would bring it darn close, the extra hours.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I obviously understand. I'm not doing this because it's.
Right, no,
I
I'm not doing
totally
this because
understand the
I don't like
cost.
the other prices.
But I want to make
really
sure that
don't.
the fire department, if I'm having a heart attack or somebody else
Yeah.
gets in a car accident, that somebody's
issue.
actually going to show up to help you.
There's so many different caveats to these, both companies, and some of the things that are said and promised, and I don't know, I struggle with it, I really do. So, we could table it, and I say we do make an adjustment later on to the budget.
Well, can
We
we,
get more,
so I mean, my personal opinion is, I'm sure I'm sure we can get commissioners together fairly quick, because this is probably a pretty big topic for them. I mean, today's, Monday? I think it would be smart to see if we can get that conversation going sometime early this week, and maybe today's only the 7th, we have till the 20th, so there's no reason we can't get a special meeting together early next week to approve the budget with whatever numbers. We can do both. We can
Okay.
do this resolution and the resolution for the,
so can we shoot for the 14th for a special meeting?
Let me see, hold on.
like we normally do, like in the morning before
Can do
he
that.
goes into work.
Can we do in the morning?
The
Before you get to work?
Yeah, hold on, let me see what,
Or like the Tuesday the 15th? Or something like that?
next Tuesday, the 15th would be bad for me. Monday, the 14th would be fine.
Monday the 14th, early, right?
Do we do the normal 8 a.m.?
8
8
a.m.
a.m.?
So I'll make a motion that we set a special meeting for the town board on November 14th, 2022 at 8 a.m. to authorize the contract with an ambulance service and to adopt the annual budget for fiscal year 2023.
Here a second.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Items for special consideration, we just did that one. Security in the parks.
So
Yes.
I'll make a motion to allow that on the agenda.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So yes, we had another incident, more vandalism in Bower Park. And I don't have to go into the mill site stuff. We've already mentioned those. So, yeah, we need security in the parks. I believe we should go get cameras. I believe we should prosecute. There was once a talk about a gate, and the gate was,
Solar powered, if I'm not mistaken.
it was something like that, and it had the things where it comes up and you.
Yeah,
get a
it
flat
opens,
tire
it was
and-
open during, if I'm not mistaken, I remember I was at the
Yep.
board meeting, I wasn't on the board yet, but, it was open during, park hours, and then it closes, but if someone approaches it that was locked in the park, it would open and let them out, but it wouldn't let people in.
Right, so if you're in at 5 o'clock and the park closes at
It's dusk, which is-
9,
yeah.
you can come out and it'll let you go, but it won't let anybody in. However, then a few people mentioned something. I'm
Yeah, I know.
I was there a long time, there too, and I'm trying to remember why a lot of people said, well, the people doing the vandalism go walking right around the gate. So they come in elsewhere.
But they at least couldn't get their car.
Well, they're not taking a car in, and the problem was, it was a Jeep that went in and destroyed that field. And so we're trying to stop cars from doing that, and that's what had happened then, that's what caused, they went and stopped the cars from going in. But still, vandalism happened. What happened in this last one was spray paint, graffiti, kicking over the porta potty. I believe there was broken into the shed. There was several things. It was all vandalism.
Someone
I
shot
see
up the
I see
porta
Tracy.
potty.
Can Tracy come up and,
I see Tracy bending her arm. Come on. Found it?
No, I didn't find it, but I was the town employee.
Red light.
I can't tell. Red means stop. These things turn green.
Means go.
I was the one that met the sheriff county officer.
Deputy.
Deputy, thank you. I always call them the wrong thing. And he pointed out a couple good factors. He said that this is not the first time that we have been told and recommended to get surveillance. Before I became the soccer director, we experienced the really bad damage to the field. It was recommended at that time, many other times after that, to put surveillance and start using the gate that is there. And my response to him was that, yeah, that would probably help with keeping vehicles off of creating the divots in the parking lot that they do when they're doing their donuts, and it would, deter motor vehicles from coming down that road. But this was clearly done by kids. They brought pumpkins, they trashed the place, they broke into the soccer shed. He said, you'd be surprised how lazy teenagers are these days, and that it sometimes is a matter of just a gate being closed, and they'll move on to the next place that doesn't have a gate. Unfortunately, it would probably be the apartments across the way or something like that, but he said you would be surprised what a closed gate does. He also said that it goes from regular trespassing to criminal trespassing once we close a gate. If a gate is closed and they go through the gate, it ups the charges quite a bit and becomes a more serious offense, which I didn't realize. I thought that was pretty important of him to point out. The porta potties, I don't believe those are bullet holes in the porta potties. I heard someone said it looks like it had been shot out. Those porta potties came to us at the beginning of the season, and those holes were in it. I don't know how or where those holes came from, but I don't believe that they are bullet holes. They were there at the very beginning of the season, if not arrived that way. But, yeah. I am considering this most recent act of vandalism very lucky. This could have been way worse, especially if we lose that field. This soccer program really has nowhere else to go. So, I vote for security.
Thank you.
Thanks, Tracy.
Well, one of the things that I'm hearing here is a lot of what I said to the county and the state tonight. So we need to start taking our own advice. Where there's a pole right outside of Ravine Road there. We need electric down in there anyway. We're gonna need lights on that field eventually. We're just gonna need to like pull the Band-Aid off and do this kind of stuff. Otherwise, we're gonna become the county and the state.
I agree.
Yep.
No, there's no question, I think this board is 100% in agreement that all of our parks, and we said this last time, all of our assets need to be protected.
They
And
really
enough's
do.
enough, because it's happening more and more, far too frequent. Okay.
I'll make a motion that we add the rec leader resignation as a special item of consideration to the agenda.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
So again, we're gonna advertise for a rec leader?
Yeah, we're gonna, you should.
Yeah, unfortunately or fortunately for Mina Park, her husband has accepted a position in Washington DC, which
One hell of a
obviously
commute.
they can't turn down. So I'd like to advertise for her position like I did before on the rec database. And I do have her resignation. It says, please accept my letter of resignation from the position of recreation leader, effective 4 days from today. My last day will be Friday, December 2nd, 2022. My spouse accepted a position at Washington, D.C. I have enjoyed working for Pleasant Valley and appreciate you for your guidance and partnership. I commend you for your strong work ethics and incredible knowledge base. During the next 4 weeks, I'm willing to help you in any way to make the transition as smooth as possible. And I did email this to the board as
Yes, we
soon
got
as
it.
she
Thank you, Sandy.
sent it to me, because she addressed it to me,
So,
so.
do we need to make a motion for her to advertise this?
No, I just wanted to let the board know.
Oh, okay, yeah, so,
But didn't you have anyone in second place when last time you did this? I mean, or third
Well,
place?
I'm gonna,
Weren't there like, you know,
we
I
got
was
a better
close.
response from the rec database than Indeed, definitely. I have to go back and look.
Okay.
You know, because we did both. We were doing the part-time and we were doing the full-time positions. So I do have to go back and look and see, because there were, you know, decent applicants. You know, we just picked,
Okay.
you know, who was available and what was the best at the time, so.
But I think everybody appreciates what you're doing, because this has been a very trying time with
Oh, yeah.
losses up there, and it puts a lot of pressure on you
Shoot me
that's
now. I
undue.
mean, we're in
So-
basketball, and I just can't keep up with it. You know, with the
Yeah.
registrations, who's switching, who can't do the night, arguing to get gym space that we can't get. These are their kids.
Yeah.
I get it.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Sandy.
Thank you for your support.
Okay, old business discussions, local law adoption process for proposed local law B of 2022, entitles a local law repealing Chapter 95 and amending Chapter 98, Section 98-34 of the Town Code with regard to the outdoor storage of junk motor vehicles. Town Attorney.
So I don't think you all have the law in front of you, but what I wanted to do was just pick this discussion back up, and I went through the comments that we received, and I went through the law, and I looked at how some other towns deal with it. And I do want to go over this with Sarah also, but do you want to just spend a few minutes and I'll go
Sure.
through the items that I picked out? So one thing was that we, the law basically says that you can't store a unregistered motor vehicle outdoors on your property. And outdoors means outside of a building, and some people mentioned that people use things like tents and other types of things. Do you all want to include, you know, tent-type structures?
I think if you're covering something and keeping it taken care of, I don't consider that, it doesn't fall into the word junk. I think if it's something that, you know, you're gonna take care of, you know, it really is
I
not
agree.
junk.
Yeah, I think outdoor storage means outdoor, and a
Right.
tent ought to count just like a
Yeah,
garage,
I
I think,
agree.
right?
Yeah.
So, we can reword that, that's no problem.
Yeah, but you also don't want people putting that kind of stuff up everywhere. Like, oh, let's cover that. Oh, let's cover that.
Yeah, no, you're not wrong.
Let's, you know what I mean?
Well,
That
they're
kind-
expensive,
Yeah,
just to
those
let you know.
carports?
So if you've got,
Well, it depends
listen,
on which
if-
one you get.
If you've got a bunch of junk vehicles in your yard, and I mean junk, stuff that you've taken parts out of and stuff like that, chances are you're not going to be covering all of them. You don't care.
Right.
All right? So you're not gonna put a $1,500
You get that for
lean-to
your-
tent or whatever they are, what do they call them, carports? To protect it. So, I mean, if you got the one car that you took all the parts out of all the other cars, that would be the one in the tent.
Yeah, I mean, remember, this is gonna be the kind of thing that's only enforced when it's a bad situation.
Right.
No one's gonna go around looking for,
Yeah.
for problems.
swapping plates.
But we don't want people to feel that,
Yeah.
they're exposed. Another item was that we have an exception for an antique or classic automobile, provided that in the opinion of the zoning administrator, it doesn't create a nuisance essentially. And there were complaints that we should better define antique or classic. Do you all have thoughts on that?
I thought it was to clarify the, in the opinion of the zoning
That was- I thought that was
Yeah,
the one,
not,
yeah.
not the
It wasn't?
classic or the, it was to, clarify the opinion of the zoning administrator.
It
Right,
shouldn't
well.
be the opinion of our zoning administrator, of whether somebody has a classic car or not.
So that means we have to define it better. so
Yeah.
that it's
Yeah.
not
I think she
opinion.
was asking for it to be
So-
defined.
Oh, so
yeah,
we
how
gotta,
would you-
okay. Do
So-
We could potentially reach out to them and ask them. They're car people.
I looked up what some other towns have. They define antique as more than 25 years old, classic as at least 10 years old, and then it has some more definition as far as what makes something classic. Do you want to just try some of that language?
That's perfect.
Would be fine.
That's fine. That's fine.
And then another item we had, we had an exception for repair shops, and I think that what we just need to do with that is say that it needs to be in compliance with a site plan. If you have a repair shop, you
Yep.
should have a site plan. And then we also had an exception for motor vehicles kept and stored by commercial establishments on their own property for the purpose of removing parts therefrom for use in vehicles used in their regular course of business. Is that I don't really know why we would have that.
Yeah.
Well, if you're a repair shop,
Yeah,
and you're a kind of guy who works on, let's say, a specific kind of car, for instance, if you come across something that you purchase, I can take something out of this car for something down the line, you're gonna do that. And it may be, the body may be a piece of junk, but the parts may be okay. So, repair shops generally do that sometimes.
well, repair shop is one category, but then we have a separate category that it sounds as if it's like any other type of business that might
Just
keep a
store
spare vehicle around.
Yeah, and I think we actually have a zoning code that addresses, what do you call those?
Junkyards. We have
Junkyards,
that, yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah, so I would
Yeah.
just.
What constitutes a junkyard?
it's kind of already
strike
covered.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that should just, okay, if you have a repair shop, then go by your site plan and that'll say where you can store things, right? Okay. All right, so then I think with those changes, I can make the edits and have
Good.
a new draft for you.
Excellent. At this point, we're going to open up the meeting to the public, one time only. And anything that was on the agenda, you're more than welcome to.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
My name is Tom Boucher. I live at 187 Ward Road, and I've lived there for 10 years. I am by profession a financial analyst, and I've spent the better part of 40 years analyzing municipal financial statements. Last week, I spent a day analyzing the financials of the town as presented on the New York State Open Book Portal. There may well be errors in my remarks due to either the homogenization of the Open Book source data or my understanding of the presentation. I'm reasonably certain that any errors are not material enough to eliminate my concerns. One of the great miracles of modern business management is the invention of the budget process. The purpose of the properly run budget process is to focus the attention of all the participants in the organization on one problem: how to provide the same or better level of service next year at a lower cost than the present year. Properly executed, the process takes the current budget and figuratively puts it in a vise and turns the handle. The increasing pressure squeezes the fat out of the budget. Once you've taken the process as far as it can go, you then execute your business plan. Next year, you return to the budget process and do it again. Surprisingly, you can turn the handle farther, taking another couple of turns on the process and driving out additional waste. The same process works in year 3 and 4, and in truth, it can be carried on in perpetuity. People change, processes change, the cost of services change. I can assure you that General Mills is still turning the vise on the manufacture of Cheerios 80 years after they were invented. My analysis of the town's financials makes it clear that the town is not running a proper budget process. While I've only analyzed 5 years of financials, I'm reasonably convinced that this has been a problem for at least a decade, if not longer. At the end of 2021, the town had a net fund balance across all funds in excess of $9 million. This was confirmed by your bookkeeper earlier today. That is an increase of more than $4 million from the 2016 balance. This balance is held in cash or cash equivalents. To be clear, I'm not confusing or talking about the capital asset funds. This surplus is nearly twice the annual budget for the town. It is significantly in excess of the level of reserves advised by the New York State Comptroller's Office. In fact, I believe that in the past, the town has been criticized by the Comptroller on this issue. While I'm addressing you, the current board, I recognize that many of you were not sitting in your seats during the periods in question. To the extent you weren't, then you obviously had no hand in the creation of this problem, the problem I'm talking about. However, to the extent that the current board doesn't overtly repudiate the practices of the past, you adopt and ratify them by your silence. You are at risk of perpetuating a material deception on the citizens of this community. The money belongs to the taxpayers of the town. It should be returned to them. This problem is a long-standing one that has only been made worse by boards over the last 5 years. During that time, the town has had a budget surplus of almost $1 million a year each year. These surpluses are clear evidence of a failed budget process. Yes, conservative budgeting practices are appropriate, but what I am discussing goes beyond conservative and strays into what is commonly called padding. Historically, actual expenses have come in under budget and the excess has been transferred to the general reserves. And yet, year after year, historic boards have continued to over-budget town expenses and under-budget revenues, producing larger and larger surpluses. For those of you who take taxpayer silence as taxpayer agreement with this practice, I would offer the far more likely possibility that taxpayer silence is taxpayer ignorance on the subject. At the last meeting, Mr. Riffenberg offered a series of motions for budget line reductions. The proposed cuts, which were as much as 25% on some line items, were adopted by unanimous vote with only one point of contention, that being the contingency reserve. In a proper budgeting process, someone would have made the point that you can't cut a line item by 25% without eliminating some important service or process. If it wasn't important, it wouldn't have been in the budget to begin with. If you can cut it 25% without impairing service, then it was a bogus number to begin with. I recognize that some of you are not finance people, but the board owes it to the taxpayers to at least consult an expert in finance and figure out if I am correct. If you vote to approve this budget without further investigation, you are perpetuating a process which is unjust to the taxpayers who have entrusted you with the management of the town's resources. Those people are your friends and neighbors. Please take the time to understand what is going on and to uphold the trust that they have vested in you. Unfortunately, the budget process is nearing its statutory deadline and time is short. I call upon the board to implement in this budget a 20% cut in the real estate property tax rate. That is a reduction in revenue of roughly $600,000. Although the number sounds large, it is but a small gesture given the magnitude of the problem. Such a tax cut will not solve the problem. More work will need to be done. A budget deficit is appropriate to bleed off outsized reserves. but it is unlikely that this cut will actually produce a deficit. For those of you who say that such a cut is not feasible, I offer the following mailer from Mr. Molinaro, the Dutchess County Executive. You will notice that he is boasting that the county has cut their property tax rate every year since 2015, a total of a 32% rate cut over that period. I congratulate Mr. Molinaro and the county legislature. They're doing a good job running a real budget process and returning the excess to taxpayers. Secondly, I call upon the board to form a committee of taxpayers with expertise in the field to assist the board in creating a legitimate and robust budget process for next year. In summary, I've asked for a tax rate reduction as a gesture of good faith and a first step towards the righting of historical financial wrongs. That is one choice. I also offer an alternative, not as a threat, but as a statement of my personal commitment in this matter. If the board won't make the rate cut and begin the process of reforming the budget process, then I pledge, at my personal expense if necessary, to fully inform the taxpayers of the town of the facts in question. I am all but certain that they will react as I did. First, in anger at themselves for trusting their elected officials, and second, in anger at having been misled by those they trusted. Most of you took this job because you felt it was your duty. You wanted to be of service. You wanted to do the right thing for yourselves and your neighbors, and I applaud that. You have my sincere thanks for stepping up and taking on the challenging work of serving on the board. Almost everything the board does involves the allocation of the town's financial resources. A robust and well-organized budget process would dramatically improve the operation of the town, allowing you to more properly discharge your duty to your fellow taxpayers. I welcome the opportunity to sit down with any of you and discuss these items. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Anyone else? Not hearing any. I move we close the meeting to the public.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're going to executive session, I believe, right?
I'll make a motion that we go into executive session for 105.1F personnel.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, I make a motion, we come out of executive session at 9:29 PM.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And I'll make a motion at 9:30 that we adjourn.
Second.